So the Bears, who will play in the Hall of Fame game against the Texans on August 1st, like Houston, starting training camp earlier than most. Several new faces there. Top 10 picks: Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, Kevin Byard, Jonathan Owens, couple of new O-linemen. Lots of faces to work in as Courtney Cronin is there at Bears camp at Hallis Hall in Lake Forest, just 13 days away. Hard to believe from the Hall of Fame game, Courtney. So what are the expectations for Williams as they begin practice tomorrow?
Hannah, the expectation when Caleb Williams was drafted here is that he's the quarterback of the future. He is the starter, and that's the reason why they didn't bring in a veteran quarterback to create an apprenticeship or a competition. Matt Eberflus handed Caleb Williams the reins of this offense before his first ever practice in May, but that doesn't mean that they don't expect him to have some sorts of bumps in the roads, any struggles. And even Williams was realistic about what he expects to happen in practice as early as tomorrow.
I mean, I've had rough days. I expect myself to go out there. I think I'm the toughest on myself. I go out there and I'll mess up a play. I've thrown a pick in mini camp and things like that. So being tough on myself, but also having an understanding of where we are and where I am, and the progression, like I said before, is key. Those bad times, it's not a time to have self-doubt. That's just a waste of time. It's a time to keep growing, keep progressing, and keep believing in yourself.
Williams said he wants to go as fast as possible in trying to learn the offense, trying to establish a deep passing attack, all the things that made him a Heisman Trophy quarterback at USC. But he understands that time, being patient with himself, not trying to go at the speed of any other offensive player, learning a new system is going to be critical in that. And we're 13 days away from when we may potentially see Caleb Williams in his first preseason action in that Hall of Fame game in Canton. Matt Eberflus said the Bears are working out a plan for how much run he'll get in the preseason. They have a good blueprint to work off of based on last year's first-round quarterbacks. Anywhere from 45 to 55 snaps, that's how much you should expect for Caleb Williams over the course of 4 games.
As he'll be facing one of those quarterbacks, C.J. Stroud, in less than 2 weeks. Courtney, thank you. And Caleb would certainly like to end a century-long streak of quarterback futility in Chicago. This is just depressing. In their 104-year history, the Bears have never had a player throw for 4,000 yards or for 30 touchdowns, and even Field Yates did not know that. And since trading away Super Bowl winner Jim McMahon, they have started 39 different quarterbacks, second most in that span behind the Browns. Ouch. So his contract situation is resolved. Let's look to the future as everybody in Chicago is. What sort of impression is he made in the building so far?
Yeah, Hannah, I've talked to somebody with the team who said you can feel and see how talented he is. He makes the wow throws, smooth mover. The transition is with the NFL-style offense, the play action, the stuff under center that he didn't do at USC. You could see it was a little bumpy at times in the spring, but they know that Caleb Williams has been working on it tremendously, even dating back to the late winter with his private quarterbacks coach, Will Hewlett. He was doing the steps, the footwork in anticipation of being a Chicago Bear. So now he's got to get that down. But I'm told Williams likes it. He believes that will protect him long term, being able to take the ball under center.
He's a guy that understands the challenge. When we spoke at the rookie premiere, he was talking about the progression of learning the offense and how he wanted to do everything at one time. And there were hard times, there were adversities, there were some things that he had to overcome, some days where he wasn't the Caleb Williams that we know and saw at Oklahoma and USC, but he also understood those were the days that helped him grow the most. And I think Caleb Williams is going to get an opportunity to show us how talented he is at some point in this season. But for Shane Waldron, Ryan Poles, and Matt Eberflus, it's going to be how much of this offense can he grasp and how those great veteran skill players around him allow him to come along slowly. So it's going to be leaning on DeAndre Swift, leaning on Keenan Allen, also guys like DJ Moore, Rome Odunze coming along, Cole Kmet at the tight end position. There are so many good skilled players offensively that he doesn't have to carry the entire load on his own. I believe he understands that. The coaching staff understands that. But when it's time to go above the X's and O's, there's going to be no quarterback in the league more prepared athletically than Caleb Williams.
Yeah, and RC, you just mentioned 4 or 5 names that I think all of us would say that's a heck of a weapon to have around you, much less in aggregate. And think about where Caleb Williams was this past season at USC. Now, this team started 6-0, and it felt like they were perhaps going to be back on top of the college football world. But the skill group around Caleb Williams last season, very different than what he'll be throwing to now in Chicago. I mean, I know it's been said a million times since the draft was in late April, but let's just reiterate one more time. This is about as good of a spot as you'll find for a rookie #1 overall pick quarterback. First of all, it wasn't the Bears who earned that #1 overall pick, so it was not the worst team in the NFL this past season. And moreover, they had the resources. And so when you look backwards to when Ryan Poles got this job in Chicago, step one, Hannah, was tearing down the roster and offloading some of the bad contracts and trading away veterans and difficult decisions to acquire future draft capital so that when it was time to pounce, he could. This offseason, between the Keenan Allen trade, having the extra first-round pick to acquire Rome Odunze, 9th overall, one of the 6 best players in the draft, in my opinion, this team is ready for liftoff. It's a tough division, to be clear, but this team is ready for major strides this season after some promise last year, but ultimately probably a disappointing finish for Chicago.
Yeah, but down the stretch, though, they look pretty good. I love the way that RC dropped that flex of, just happening to talk to Caleb Williams on like a red carpet premiere.
Hey, he talks to everybody.
Hey guys, I'm just trying to be a part of the NFL Live crew. I see Babyface. Babyface hasn't shaved in a month, so he has a little stubble.
Hey, you know
this is where we are today.
Yeah, we got a lot of ground to cover. We got to talk the Texans because everybody else is. First team to fully report to training camp on Wednesday. Surprise team of last season, winning the AFC South title, beating the Browns in the playoffs before falling to the Ravens, and they add so much talent, notably Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, Danielle Hunter. Here's C.J. Stroud on expectations.
For me, right now, just the message is keep the main thing the main thing. We want to, of course, we have not only a lot of expectations, we have a lot of big goals on this team, and I mean that's how it should be. The person who always doubts himself probably will never make it to that point. So you got to have confidence and have a goal and a plan and execute that plan.
RC, you were on good teams with high expectations.
Yeah.
As a player, what's the best way to manage that?
I mean, it's about, you heard CJ say keep the main thing, and the main thing is playing football. But that's also day by day, working on progressing and not thinking about the destination and only the journey. When you look at the Houston Texans, this is new territory, not only for them as this current team, but as an organization. Now DeMeco Ryans entering his 2nd year with lofty expectations. It's not going to just be about can they win the AFC South. It's going to be can they compete with the Ravens, the Chiefs, and some of the top teams in the AFC. I know they believe they have the roster. I also believe the same exact thing. But how do you handle the adversity of playing a first place schedule? So they'll get to see all the big dogs in the AFC. And if they start to drop a couple of games, will they begin to question themselves, or can they lean on the experience of last year, the way this team finished down the stretch and winning a playoff game? Or will DeMeco Ryans have to find another way to motivate as times get tougher?
Yeah, see, I'm hearing the Texans don't want C.J. Stroud to change who he is. He's great at distributing the ball to the open man. 4 different Texans had 75 or more targets a year ago, so they believe Diggs will blend in seamlessly. The sense around the league is that Diggs is still a very superb route runner in the intermediate portions of the field. Maybe lost a tick on his deep vertical speed, but the Texans have guys who can do that. So that leaves Diggs to be able to win in the open field. But make no mistake, he has a massive impact on star quarterbacks year one. His first year with Kirk Cousins, 2018, had his first 100-catch season. First year with Josh Allen, 1,500-plus yards. So that impact will be immense for C.J. Stroud.
Oh, I love that. Bobby Slowick's got some tools to work with, doesn't he? This is great. I'm glad he's back. That's a huge thing for them. Other side of the ball, though, we got to give them some love. Texans bolstering their pass rush, adding Danielle Hunter and Danico Autry in free agency. Come on. I mean, they both had double-digit sacks last year. Houston just the 2nd team to add a pair of players who recorded double-digit sacks the prior year. The other was the 49ers back in '94. They went on to win the Super Bowl. It makes me so nervous to say Texans and Super Bowl in the same sentence, but everybody's doing it.
All right. Houston roots are showing right now.
I know.
It's okay.
I know.
All right, let it all out.
Hey, man, and anybody who's been a longtime Texan fan knows what DeMeco Ryans means to that franchise. He came back, he reset the culture, reminded people of what the Texans were all about. Talk to me about him and his defense. Do you see them making a leap this year?
I sure do. It's as simple as a talent add. Yes, Jonathan Grenard goes to Minnesota in not really a trade, but they bring in Danielle Hunter, so sort of a trade. So from Minnesota to Houston, Danico Autry, you mentioned as well, Hannah. And I'm not saying that this team was incapable of rushing the passer this past season, but I think this just elevates the potential for somebody like Will Anderson, who just going into his 2nd year should be that much better. As we often note, sometimes for players, the biggest leap year is that first year to that second season because, heck, this time last year, Will Anderson was trying to figure out where the locker room was and what his teammate's first name was. There's a big adjustment going from the college game to the pro game, but there's going to be other players on the defensive side of the ball that will continue to make their mark and their leap as well. Derek Stingley is an example, a corner who didn't play a whole lot because of injury his rookie season, started to really come on and find his groove in that system last year. Everybody at all three levels should be better this season. They're going to be able to hunt RC in a major way they couldn't last season.
And when you speak of hunting, think about that game against the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs and how many times linebacker Christian Harris flashed. We also saw him with a pick six late in the season as well. You already mentioned Derek Stingley, but Jalen Petrie, who I thought played at an all-pro level from the safety position as a rookie, he sort of took a step back last year in his first year under DeMeco Ryans. I expect his level of play to raise this year, and you team him with Derek Stingley, who had 5 interceptions in the back half of last season, showing why he was drafted number 3 overall out of LSU. This defense is full of difference makers on every level. You have Will Anderson opposite Daniil Hunter, Danico Autry, who can now push the pocket from the middle of the field, athleticism at the linebacker position, and playmakers in the secondary. Added to the fact that they're going to be an absolute nightmare to play offensively, this is going to be a team that's not going to sneak up on anybody, but people will be scared entering the stadium.
Yeah, you look at it, both sides of the ball, right? You got the offensive and defensive rookies of the year.
Yeah, 6 top 10 players.
A lot of talent added, and now here we're talking about how both of them could raise their level.
You need to be confident. Like you should not be like this. It should not make you cower to say Texans and Super Bowl in the same sentence.
Fourth hardest schedule. Fourth hardest schedule in the NFL. I'm with RC. Let's pump the brakes. Let's be cool.
Maybe a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, though. That right there can offset the schedule.
Best team ever.
Deep breath.